So when I came here for the first time, the first thing you do is you want to understand your city. And you want to understand the perceptions of the city. And so when you talk to people about Laredo, if they know Laredo exists at all, because some people think that Texas stops at San Antonio and there's nothing beyond that. If they know Laredo, they might say it's hot. They might say there's lots of trucks. Oh, and there's that border, so there must be lots of migrants, and oh, there's cartels, drugs. So all these perceptions. But I started to work with some of the local thought leaders here, and we started to talk about, well, what if Laredo was a learning city? What if it was a learning city where we learn to teach for our children and we teach to learn for ourselves? When would that start? Well, actually, the prenatal 3 space, from the second trimester to school, the first 1,000 days of a child's life, is so important in the development of the child. And so for us, the journey starts in the prenatal 3. And so what we're starting to look at here is ensuring access to highly effective first educators, which is typically in Laredo a parent, an aunt. There's some that do early Head Start, but with COVID, a lot of folks are choosing to keep their family at home. So let's respect that. So the ideal is we've got parents or first educators who are connected to the health system, so our children have healthy beginnings, and are able to provide or can access quality early childhood learning. Not care, but learning. Now, if we develop that across our city, and so we have this cadre of first educators across the city, they then come into this wonderful school system provided by both Laredo ISD and United ISD, the 2 largest. There's also Webb ISD and there's the diocese as well. So all the systems work really well. This is something, again, about Laredo. People say, well, the schools aren't great down here. And you start to say, well, actually, United ISD is the only school district south of San Antonio with back-to-back A-grade rating from the state. Laredo ISD has 7 blue ribbon campuses, putting in the top 10% of campuses across the country. The graduation rates from the district are in the high 90s. So what do we look at during that space? Because it's not enough. We need to make sure that we have that pipeline of teachers that come through and return to the neighbourhoods. If we want to have a quality teacher for all in every corner of Laredo and the surrounding communities, we need people from those neighbourhoods to come through the pathways and return to the neighbourhoods. Nationally, they talk about, well, actually in Chicago, I saw a great study where it was the typical teacher in Illinois was 10 to 15 miles from where they went to high school. That's where they started their career. In Laredo, it's probably 6. It's a little bit more condensed. So if we don't have students coming from the feeder schools, the likelihood that they'll go back and teach in those feeder schools is a bit of an issue. So we've got these great children that have come out through this beautiful, and we're calling it the Children's University, and the faculty, the parents. And they're sharing that responsibility with the city to ensure their students are ready. Ready is a big word in Texas. It's not just literacy and numeracy. We're talking about physically ready, so they're healthy. They've got healthy beginnings. They're intellectually ready, socially, emotionally, spiritually. Faith is a very big piece of the community down here. They're ready for success. So by 3rd grade, they're having their first testing. And that's where the fractions comes in and the literacy and numeracy. And so they stay on track. And if there's something happening, well, the successful TAFE students or the future teachers, so pre-TAFE is the future teachers clubs, they're reaching back into the lower elementary from the middle and the elementary schools. They're serving as these mentors. Those students then have made a significant contact with someone from a club that they'll remember. And so when they go into middle school, upper elementary, I want to join that future teachers club. And I know, because the people that taught me in 3rd grade are now in the Taffy Club, I'll know what I'll need to do to make sure I pass that math class, which is a big decision point for dual credit. And if I don't know what I need to know, that's where ACT and the resources come through to mitigate the impact of a lack of readiness or birthright, a lack of access to a quality educator at home. And so now I'm moving up into the middle school and I'm starting my journey towards junior high dual credit. Now I'm starting Taffy in the 6th grade and 7th grade, all the way through to about when I'm a junior. Junior's the years where I'm applying for college, so I'll probably step back a little bit and then return again in my senior year to give back. So now my Taffy students who are regional, state and possibly national champions are on the radar of the local university. We know every high school where our student has been, and so we can identify where the challenges are in terms of the pathways or insufficient pathways and the ones that are working well. So I'm ready through that transition point of 3rd grade, 5th and 6th grade, 8th grade as I move up into high school, and then transition from high school to university. And this is where we started with the TAMIU chapter, because we had 4 wonderful people which we met yesterday in my class, Intro to Teaching. And they asked if they could have a Taffy chapter, and this was the whole idea of belonging. They wanted a place where they could connect with and do the same things that they did at high school, which we provided the space, but I gave them a challenge that you need to lead. And so now they're this group, a wonderful group that are being the mentors for the students transitioning from community college, athletes, dual credit or traditional. And they'll follow the same path in their freshman and sophomore year, all the way up to the transition to junior. They'll be the leaders, they'll be the guide, they'll be the mentors, helping mitigate the tripwires and instilling that sense of belief or si se puede, yes you can, because you're from my neighbourhood. I know exactly what you've been through. We don't need to generate empathy. Their lived experience accelerates or elevates the level of empathy. And they provide these support networks through, all the way through to graduation. You'll probably find that some of those folks will end up teaching in the same school. 90% of our graduates go back into community. Within 5 years, around 80% are still teaching, and the similar amount in 10 years. So we're creating this permaculture in our learning city of pathways that lead to prosperity and also progress for our city.